So today I'm going to answer the question, how to handle early morning awakenings. And this is the updated version. Okay, so last week I posted a video with the same exact title, and I got a couple of comments that were, a couple of people were upset because they didn't feel like I actually answered the question. And, I rewatched the video, and I did think I provided some good value in it, but I think they had a point, even though I thought they kind of delivered it in a really kind of negative way. I thought that they had a good point that I didn't actually fully answer the question. And so today I'm going to fully answer the question and give you all the steps to overcome early morning awakening. So first of all, what is early morning awakening? So early morning awakening is when you wake up like significantly before your wake up time. So let's say your wake up time is 7 a.m. in the morning. It might be you're waking up at 5 a.m. or 4 a.m. or even 5:30. Basically, if you're waking up anywhere from, let's say, 45 minutes or more before your wake up time, that would be considered an early morning awakening. And usually what that means is you're not getting the full night's worth of sleep. And this is a form of insomnia. So if this has been going on, let's say this is happening at least 2 or 3 nights a week, and this has been going on for at least a few weeks or more, then it's early morning awakening. It's a form of insomnia, and it's probably a pattern has been set in. So what do you do about this? Well, really you need to do 4 key things to solve early morning awakening. And it's the same 4 things that you're going to do to solve the other forms of insomnia, which is trouble falling asleep or onset insomnia, or trouble falling back to sleep. That's maintenance insomnia, where you wake up in the middle of the night and you have difficulty falling back asleep. So it's the same key 4 steps that you need to implement to solve early morning awakening. So let's go over those steps. Step 1 is keep good sleep data. So the challenge with overcoming insomnia is there is no one skill you can implement, like one quick thing you can do. Okay, I'm waking up early. What can I do to stop that? Okay, there is nothing that exists that will handle that. If there was, then people wouldn't be dealing with this issue. You would just learn what that one quick skill is, and bam, the problem would be solved. The reason why that doesn't happen is the early morning awakening is just a symptom of the underlying problem, which is where the whole sleep system has been shifted, and you've set a pattern of waking up early in the morning, in this case, at a certain time for a certain number of days per week. Or it might be onset, where you're having trouble falling asleep. And so to address this problem and resolve it, we need to do a few different things. And the first thing is we need to know where your sleep has been over the previous week, right? What are the key numbers over the previous week for your sleep? And that would be things like your average sleep time, your sleep efficiency, how long you've been spending in the bed, things like that. And we need 7 days of that data to know what exactly to do next, how to apply the rest of the skills, because for it to be effective, it has to be personalized to you and your sleep pattern and your form of early morning awakening, and not just applied generically. Okay, that's the first thing before you do anything, is make sure you have good data that tells us where your sleep is at. It's like a snapshot of your sleep over the previous week. Okay, number 2, we need to then create a sleep schedule that fits the data, that fits where your sleep is at. So once we get 1 week's worth of that data, then we can look at the key numbers and we could design a sleep schedule for you, which should basically be the time that you're going to get into bed to go to sleep, the time you're going to wake up each morning, and how much time, the maximum amount of time that you're going to actually spend in the bed each night. And that has to be based on the numbers that we get from the data from tracking the sleep. So before we can even implement skill number 2, we need to know where your sleep is at. If we try to randomly do this without knowing that, then it's not going to work. Okay, and then you're just going to get more frustrated and anxious about the sleep because you're implementing a skill, but you're not implementing it based on exactly where your sleep is at, and that is really key here. Okay, so again, so far we have keeping the good sleep data, creating a sleep schedule. Number 3, you need to practice a skill called 30-30. Now, what is that? Now, 30-30 is a skill that we practice that within the structure, right? So we have this sleep schedule here now that you're following, bedtime, wake up time. But within that structure, what do you do if you're still waking up early in the morning, okay, which is likely to happen? Well, you need to respond to that effectively so you don't keep maintaining the insomnia or making it worse. And what you really need to do is get out of bed at a certain point if you're not falling back to sleep. So the first thing you generally want to do if you wake up early in the morning is try to go back to sleep. Unless this is happening every single morning, over several weeks, and there's never a break in that pattern, you generally don't want to get up right away. You want to try to go back to sleep, because on some days you might be falling back to sleep. And so you want to give yourself the opportunity or the chance to first try to fall back asleep. Now, if you do that and that doesn't happen, let's say within 20 to 30 minutes, then you want to get out of the bed and you want to go to another room. Now, why do we do that? Because the more time that you spend in bed awake, and particularly awake and alert, or maybe anxious or frustrated or worried, the more that gets associated with the bed and the more it confuses your brain about what you want to be doing in the bed. And therefore, it can reinforce that pattern if you just stay in the bed for that time and you wait until your alarm goes off or you're doing other things. You want to get out of the bed, you want to go to another room, and you want to engage in an activity that's both enjoyable and relaxing and takes your mind off of sleep. Okay, and then you want to stay out of the bed and continue that activity until you feel either sleepy or you feel like a pressure or some signal from your body to get back into bed to attempt sleep again. And you do not want to get back into bed until you feel that in your body. And then once you're back in bed, you attempt sleep. If it doesn't happen, you repeat. Okay? That's number 3. That's called the 30-30 rule. And then the fourth thing you need to do is manage your attitude and your emotions. So even though this process is 95% behavioral, meaning it's implementing specific behavior shifts around your sleep and changing the way you're actually going about sleeping each night based on, where your sleep is at every given point, you need to have a good frame of mind to be able to follow it and stick with it and implement it, especially when things are challenging, right? When you have a good night of sleep, it's easy, right? Because you slept well. But when you have a really poor night of sleep, or you don't sleep at all, or you're feeling really anxious and exhausted, then it's harder to maintain a good frame of mind and a good attitude. But it's really critical to this process to be able to do that. Otherwise, you're going to give up, you're going to get frustrated, and it's just going to perpetuate and feed into the problem, because that's one of the things that created the problem to begin with. Okay, so you need to be able to manage your mind and your emotions and your expectations all the way through the process, beginning to end. It's sort of something that underlies the whole process all the way through, is how you're managing your mind as you're implementing, these skills. All right, so let me just recap here. Number 1, you want to keep really good sleep data all the way through, but we at least need a week's worth of data to get going with the other skills and track some key numbers so we know exactly where your sleep is at. Number 2, you need to then create a sleep schedule, which is a structure around your sleep that fits perfectly with the data over the previous 7 days, like what your sleep pattern looks like that we captured over those first 7 days, and then we fit that schedule to fit that. Okay, and then third, you're going to practice 30-30. That's getting out of the bed at a certain point. That's doing certain things when you're out of the bed, and then getting back into bed at a certain point to attempt sleep again in order to break that association between wakefulness and the bed. And then number 4, as you're going through this whole process, you need to manage your mind and your emotions, your thoughts, whether it's anxiety or frustration. You need to be able to keep a good frame of mind and a good attitude, even though you're having difficult nights sleeping and you're not sleeping, or you're waking up early. You need to know how to respond to that so your frame of mind stays in a good place so it doesn't intensify and make the problem even worse. Okay. Now, those are really the 4 steps. That's the full thing. I mean, there's some other things that we do when I work with clients, but those are really the 4 key things to overcoming any kind of insomnia, no matter how long you've had it, no matter how severe it is, whether you're taking medication or not taking medication. This is how you handle early morning awakenings and the other forms of insomnia. Now, a couple of things I want to add here. Number one, each one of these skills that I went over today, there's a lot more detail to each one. I mean, I could do hours on each one of these because there's a lot of details in terms of the data, like what are you recording? And there's so many different details that can't be covered in these videos, but are really important to be able to get accurate data. And then in terms of, creating the sleep schedule, the same thing. And then 30-30, which is probably the most challenging skill I find that clients need to implement to overcome early morning awakening or insomnia. There's both a science and an art to doing it effectively. And then 4th, being able to know how to manage your mind and emotions as you're going through and navigating this process so you can stay on track all the way until you get past the insomnia. The other thing that I'll say here is you do not want to do all these things at once. Okay, there's a certain pacing and timing to this process. And sometimes what people do is they try to do too many things at once. They're trying too hard to solve the problem. And so they're throwing just more and more things into the basket in terms of the things that they're trying to improve their sleep. And a lot of times that works with certain things, like the harder we try, the better grades we get, or the better health we might have. But with sleep, paradoxically, the harder you try to improve it directly, the worse it gets. Okay, so we don't want you kind of throwing too many things at your body at once because it overwhelms your body and your sleep system, and it'll overwhelm you. And we want to pace it and time it in a gentler way, that we're just adding certain things one at a time over several weeks until you're doing everything in kind of an orchestrated way. Okay, so that is also really key here, is the pacing and how fast you're implementing these 4 skills. All right, so I hope this video was much more helpful in giving you like the full, kind of overview and picture of what you need to do to get rid of and get past early morning insomnia. It is a solvable problem. Insomnia is a problem that can be solved. It doesn't matter how long you've had it. It doesn't matter, how many medications you've been on. When we get to the core underlying root causes, which are poor sleep behaviors and negative sleep thoughts, that's what fuels the anxiety, and we address those, and we reestablish a normal, healthy pattern in your body, and we break the insomnia, you can get past it by going through this process. Okay, so if you found this video helpful, just press the like button. And if you haven't, subscribe to the channel, and that way you'll get notified. I do these videos every week, and I post every Tuesday and Thursday. And if you have any questions like this that you want me to answer, you can post them in the comment section below. I read all of the comments and the questions. And, if you have a really good question, then I might make a video just for you. And I hope that's going to be helpful for you to be able to get past this problem. So I hope you have a good rest of your week, and I will see you next time.